What happens when a simple fashion ad turns into a full-blown cultural firestorm? That's exactly what happened to Sydney Sweeney, and the internet can't stop talking about it. At first glance, it looks like just another glossy campaign for American Eagle, but the fallout has been anything but ordinary. People aren't just calling it awkward, they're calling it dangerous, even propaganda, and it all started with one strange little sentence: "My jeans are blue." The ad seemed harmless enough when it dropped. Sydney Sweeney, one of Hollywood's brightest stars, standing there in classic denim, soft lighting, casual vibes. But then came the voiceover. Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue. It was supposed to be clever, playing on the word jeans versus jeans, but instead it landed like a laid balloon. People online called it cringy. Out of touch and weirdly seductive, TikToks mocking the ad flooded in. Tweets went viral saying, "Oh, this feels like an A. I wrote it after studying fascist propaganda." And honestly, once you watch it, you kind of get why people are confused. It's not just the line, it's the tone. Sydney's slow, deliberate delivery. The way the camera lingers on her face, her eyes, her curves. It feels like it's trying really hard to be sensual. But for what? Jeans? That disconnect made people uncomfortable. And then the memes started rolling in, clips of the ad remixed with ominous music. People pretending to be in marketing meetings saying, "Yes, yes, perfect blue eyes, purity vibes, send it to print." The internet was eating it up, but the conversation was about to take a much darker turn. Because for some viewers, this wasn't just awkward, it was familiar. The whole thing reminded people of an ad from decades ago, a campaign that shocked the world long before Instagram and TikTok existed. And once people made the connection, the backlash doubled overnight. Back in 1980, a 15-year-old Brooke Shields starred in a Calvin Klein ad that would go down in history for all the wrong reasons. You've probably heard the line, "You want to know what comes between me and my Calvins?" Nothing. At the time, it sounded provocative, maybe even playful, but Brooke was a minor, and the entire campaign was drenched in innuendo. The poses were sensual, the tone seductive, and the world wasn't ready for that, especially from a teenager. The fallout was immediate. The ads were banned in multiple places. The press went wild. Brooke and her mother were chased by paparazzi screaming, "How could you?" She later said she had no idea why people were so outraged, because to her, the line didn't seem sexual at all. She was naive. She didn't think about the double meaning, but advertisers knew exactly what they were doing. That campaign wasn't an accident. It was designed to push boundaries, and it worked. Despite the outrage, Calvin Klein sales skyrocketed. The scandal only made the brand bigger. It set the tone for decades of fashion marketing. Be provocative, get attention, and let the controversy do the rest. Fast forward 40 years, and Sydney's ad feels like deja vu. The tone, the look, even the suggestive wordplay, it all feels like a deliberate throwback to Brooke Shields. Except this time, people aren't shocked for the same reasons. Now the conversation isn't just about sexualization, it's about messaging, and this is where things start to get messy, because the internet didn't stop at calling the ad cringe. They started calling it something much worse. People accused American Eagle of pushing a white purity narrative, even eugenics. And here's why. The ad talks about traits being passed down from parents to offspring, hair color, eye color, and then zooms in on Sydney's bright blue eyes as she says, "My jeans are blue." On paper, it's a silly pun. In execution, it came off like a purity manifesto. Blonde hair, blue eyes, perfect genetics. It hit a nerve, and people didn't hold back. Comments calling it fascist weird and dog whistle marketing blew up on TikTok. One user flat out said, "Why is American Eagle making Nazi-coded ads in 2023? And the worst part? The brand's name, American Eagle, didn't exactly help. It only fueled the narrative that this wasn't a mistake, it was intentional. And just like that, what started as a denim campaign turned into a cultural debate about race, beauty standards, and propaganda. But here's the kicker. This wasn't Sydney's first controversial move, and that made the backlash even louder. So Because if you've been following Sydney lately, you know this isn't her first viral moment, and not all of them have been flattering. Just a few weeks before the jeans ad blew up, she was already trending for another collaboration that had people just as divided. This time, it wasn't jeans, it was soap. And not just any soap, Sydney launched a limited edition product with Dr. Squatch called Bathwater Bliss. Sounds normal enough until you hear the catch. The soap supposedly contained her actual bathwater. Yes, you heard that right. Real bathwater from Sydney Sweeney. Each bar came with a certificate of authenticity and sold it for around $8 to $12. Only 5,000 were made and they sold out almost instantly. For some fans, it was hilarious, a cheeky marketing gimmick that leaned into Sydney's sex symbol status. But for others, it crossed the line from fun to gross. People accused her of pandering to the male gaze, reducing herself to an object for profit. The internet lit up with debates about empowerment versus exploitation. Was this Sydney being playful or Sydney cashing in on fetish culture? The controversy didn't stop her hustle, though. Right after the soap, she teamed up with Baskin-Robbins for a much more wholesome collab, all pastel ice creams and soft smiles. That one was cute, safe, and drama-free. But here's the thing, when the jeans ad dropped, people remembered the bathwater stunt. They remembered the jokes, the thirst tweets, and the criticism, and suddenly, this wasn't just about one bad ad. It felt like a pattern of Sydney leaning into hypersexualized branding, even when it backfired. And here's where it gets even wilder. Marketing experts started chiming in, saying this campaign didn't just happen, it went through layer after layer of approvals. One TikToker broke it down like this. First, you've got the creative team pitching the concept, then the copywriters crafting the exact words, then meetings with executives, legal teams, Sydney's management, her agents, her lawyers. Every detail, her hair, her makeup, the lighting, the tone was deliberate. This wasn't a slip up in a single brainstorm session. This was a calculated move signed off by dozens of people, which begs the question, if everyone saw this before it aired, how did nobody think, hey, this sounds like a eugenics pamphlet with extra lip gloss? And maybe the answer is that they did think about it and didn't care. Because, let's be real, outrage sells. We've seen it a million times. Shock value drives engagement drives views, and views drive sales. Maybe this was the plan all along. Get people talking, make it trend. Whether it's positive or negative doesn't matter, because right now, everyone's talking about American Eagle and Sydney Sweeney. And if the Brooke Shields controversy taught us anything, it's that scandal can be the best marketing strategy there is. But while some people were dissecting every frame of the ad like it was a propaganda film, others were rolling their eyes. Comments poured in saying, "It's just a pun. Calm down." People argued that the backlash was overblown, that it's ridiculous to assume a jeans ad is pushing some secret supremacist agenda. And honestly, they have a point. Brands make dumb ads all the time without any sinister undertones. Maybe this really was just a tone-deaf attempt at being clever. Maybe the internet is so primed for controversy that even a corny joke can start a culture war. Still, the fact that so many people saw something darker says a lot about where we are right now. In a world where every word, every image is analyzed and dissected, brands can't afford to be careless. Because even if the intent wasn't malicious, the impact is what sticks. And in this case, the impact was huge. The memes, the debates, the think pieces, it all turned one ad into a viral phenomenon for reasons nobody in that boardroom could have fully predicted, or maybe they did. So what do you think? Was this just a clever marketing move that backfired, or was it something more deliberate, maybe even something unsettling? One thing's for sure, Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle got exactly what every brand wants in 2025, people talking. Whether that's good or bad, that's for you to decide. But here's the real question no one can agree on. How much of this was Sydney's choice? When an actor signs on to a brand campaign, they usually have some level of input, but not full control. Sydney probably didn't write that script, she didn't storyboard the shots, and she didn't greenlight the final cut. That's all on the brand and its creative team, but here's the catch. Her name, her face, her reputation, that's all on her. This isn't a background extra role. This is Sydney Sweeney front and center saying those words in her own voice. which means whether she liked it or not, she owns the message. And that's what makes celebrity endorsements so tricky in the age of viral outrage, because the internet doesn't care about who wrote the script, they care about who's on screen. And in this case, that's Sydney. Some fans defended her, saying she's just doing her job, blame the brand. Others weren't so forgiving. They pointed out that Sydney's whole image, this soft, sensual Americana vibe, fits too perfectly with the ad's aesthetic for it to be an accident. She wasn't cast at random. She was chosen because she embodies that exact look. Blonde, blue-eyed girl next door, but with an edge. And that leads to an uncomfortable truth about marketing. These choices are never neutral. Every casting decision sends a message, even if the message isn't intentional.